ever been to Whitby, I'm sure can't fail to be impressed by the long and illustrious maritime history they've got there. And as far as I'm concerned, the real heroes of this are the lifeboat men and these days women who go out risking their own lives to save others. Of course, wherever you get heroes, you get villains. And the villains are the pirates. And, well, all the years I've been going up to Whitby, and I'm going to tell you one of my favourite tales from Whitby, and it's about a pirate. You see, this pirate, he lived in Whitby, and he was the most ugliest, evilest, bloodthirstiest person that ever sailed the seven seas. Yeah, he was, don't say he was ugly, he got a heavily pit-marked face, he got a broken nose and horrible teeth, and his eyes were the worst thing because they were different sizes, different colours, and seemed to be looking in different directions at the same time. He got broad shoulders, big strong hands, and he would have been a giant of a man, except for one thing. He only got really tiny short legs. Yeah, even so that what happened was everybody used to call him Old Gravel Arse. not to his face, of course. I mean, that would have been stupid. I mean, this guy would have had you chopped up and fed to the fishes as soon as look at you. But I mean, I've described the pirate to you, and for all his ugliness, and you know, and his viciousness, the most peculiar thing about him was his wife. Because as ugly as he was, his wife was beautiful. And people said that he made a pact with the devil for her hand in marriage. But the truth was that she'd been brought up in real poverty. And she'd married the old pirate for the finer things that he could give her in life. And when the pirate was in town, they'd be seen going round the marketplace. She'd be there in her fine clothes, good boots, you know, and he'd be down there, arm in arm, and she'd be looking down on top of his little bald head there, you know, and he'd be glaring at any man who was stupid enough to glance in his beautiful wife's direction. Now, I'm painting a picture of happily married bliss. It wasn't really like that, because at home it was totally different, because she hated the old bugger, you know, and she used to quite often hit him with things, you know, heavy things like a frying pan and stuff like that. Really loved it. And quite often he'd go to sea, sort of, you know, with bruises and cuts that he'd incurred while he'd been ashore. But that's the way it was. And if ever he came back from one of his trips without a suitable present for her, yeah. Anyway, one of his favourite tricks was to make believe that his own vessel was in jeopardy. And then when another vessel would come to its aid, his pirates would be hiding, would leap out, board the other ship, you know, deal with the crew and plunder the ship. And that's exactly what they were doing on this particular day. And they'd taken the ship and they were disposing of the other crew. But then the old pirate noticed that there was a young lady passenger on board, and she was wearing a beautiful shawl over her shoulders. It was beautiful. It was sort of, I suppose you'd call it aquamarine. It was just the same colour as the sea. Anyway, he held up his hand and stopped his pirates because they were just about to dispose of her. And he asked for the shawl. He up. It was so sheer, you could almost see through it. The colour was beautiful. And he thought, that will make a beautiful present for my wife. He folded it up carefully, put it in his breast pocket. Then he signalled his pirates to get on with the job and then dispose of the other. Well, on the way back off that voyage, quite often took it out and went, oh yeah, my wife will love this. And when he got back, he gave it to her. There was a sticky moment when he thought, you know, maybe a problem being as it was second hand, but she could see how beautiful it was and she loved it. She ran into the bedroom, sat herself down at the dressing table in front of the mirror and put that shawl over her shoulders. But when she looked in the mirror, instead of seeing her own beautiful reflection, she saw the face of the previous owner of that shawl. Well, she'd been in the water for some time now, and she got a big gash across her head where the pirate had hit her with his cutlass. Her eyes were all bulging, her cheeks were puffed out, and the fish ears started to nibble at her nostrils and her ears, and, well, the lady thought that she'd lost her beauty, and her beauty was everything to her. She let out a scream, she threw the shawl off, and she dashed right past the pilot before he could stop her. She running down to the quay, old Gravelars running after her because with these little short legs there's no way he was ever going to catch her. And she got to the quay, she threw herself into the river and was washed out to sea. Well, it was 3 days before they recovered her body. By that time, the old pirate had died of a broken heart. Yeah, well, they were buried together up in St Mary's Church. That is, if you go over the river, away from the touristy part of Whitby, there's 200 steps. I haven't counted them, but I'm reliably told there's 200. There's 199 and 200 takes into St Mary's Churchyard. And they were both buried there together. And there's a simple headstone which reads, Pirate's Grave. So, if you're up there, you can go and have a look. Next week I shall be popping up there as usual, having a look. I've never found it yet, but I'll keep going back.